I'm Priyanka Shahra, the founder of Swapaholic. Welcome to my masterclass. The United Nations has outlined 17 developmental goals as a blueprint for all nations and industries to be more sustainable, peaceful, and prosperous. These include goals such as zero hunger and clean energy. Now, most industries need to focus on becoming more sustainable with respect to a few of these goals. One would imagine that fashion would have to work towards the goal of responsible consumption and production. The unfortunate truth is that fast fashion has its unsustainable footprint over all 17 goals. By saying this, the objective is not to scare, or sway you against the fashion industry. Fashion is an integral part of our lives, and thus the purpose of this sharing is to become more aware. This is honestly how I started my journey. When I learned of the industry's unsustainable ways, a switch went off in my head. I was done with my shopaholic ways literally overnight. So my hope is that we can turn this negative information into positive impetus to wake up and swap our actions. I'm going to reveal a few examples of where the industry stands with respect to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. To make my point as simply as possible, I've divided the goals into community and environmentally related. Community-related goals refer to goals such as no poverty, good health, and decent work. So how does the fashion industry fare across these goals? Due to the industry's relentless thirst for cheap garments, the lower rungs of the supply chain are taken advantage of. They're made to work in dangerous work environments that can be life-threatening. Rana Plaza was a Bangladeshi garment factory producing for some of the most well-known global brands. It collapsed in 2013, killing and injuring over 1,000 workers, whose protests to work in these conditions was completely ignored. Today, the lack of respect for the garment workers continues. Industry workers make around 1% of the market value of a garment and work on informal, insecure contracts with no rights. And that's not all. In fact, 91% of workers are physically punished. Most of these are women who are more easily exploited. Child labor is sadly rampant in the industry too. It's the industry's bid for quantity over quality which leads to these inhumane work conditions, as well as overproduction, which leads me to the environmental related goals. These refer to objectives such as clean water, climate action, and responsible consumption and production. The textile industry is responsible for 10% of annual global carbon emissions, making it the second largest polluting industry after the oil and gas sector. Every aspect of the unsustainable textile life cycle contributes towards this colossal carbon footprint. Roughly 8,000 chemicals are used in textile production, many of which are unregulated and toxic. This explains why communities around garment factories are heavily polluted with depleting natural ecosystems. Now multiply these malpractices into 100 billion, because that's how many garments are produced yearly across 52 microseasons. So this is far from responsible consumption and production. The more we buy, the more the industry produces. And as much as we buy, we only wear 20% of what we own, resulting in a buy and throw culture. Have you ever thought about what happens to our fashion waste? Well, it's either incinerated or left endlessly in landfills. Both these methods cause global warming. Incineration, or burning of clothes, releases carbon dioxide, the effects of which we are all well aware of. Dumping clothes in landfills is no better. Due to being laced with the chemicals I earlier spoke of, clothes cannot biodegrade, even if they're made of natural fibers. So they can lie in landfills for hundreds of years, emitting methane, a harmful greenhouse gas, while they attempt to break down. The exploitation of human and natural resources is definitely disheartening, to say the least. But the power to control and put an end to this lies in our hands. So what can we do? Buy less and consume consciously. By buying less, you break the cycle of overproduction and consumption, reducing the waste of resources. And if you must, borrow, rent, swap, or buy preloved, which utilizes resources that already exist. Secondly, question more. And if you're choosing to buy new, which is absolutely fine, ask brands to be accountable for their labor and sustainability practices. Don't support brands that aren't transparent with worker and our planet's rights. It's that simple. As consumers, We are who the industry caters to and profits from, making us the most powerful voice. So when we decide what we will and will not stand or pay for, the change will be amplified. So let's wake up and together vote with our voices and wallets.